At this point in time, education is not possible even in IIMs unless you take an education loan because it is so outpriced. When you talk of 27, 28 lakh rupees as fees, by the time you finish your education, travel, all the other expenditure, it's between 35 and 40 lakh rupees. Today, you do not have a single MBA less than 15, 20 lakhs. Maybe there are a bunch of things which are possibly funded by public institutions or state governments. So essentially, the fee jumped 5 times more than the jump in the median salary. What was 400% in terms of median salary jump? The fee jumped about 1500 to 2000%. Big question that I'm asking at this point in time is, do you think there should be a cap or a restriction on IIMs increasing the fee so haphazardly? Do you think IIMs should freeze their fees for the next 5 years so that they come back to some kind of a normalcy? Do you think that IIMs need to really think through about whether they're contributing to the growth of this country or they're actually stopping it because they are only benefiting those people who can afford or have assets or deposits or want to take a debt? Only those people are being benefited. It's about whether a poor student would today at this point in time have the gall, have the courage to apply for an IIM knowing fully well that he or she needs to take a loan to fund that education. That is a big problem here and this needs to be challenged. Hello students, welcome to MBA 360. This is a topic that boils my blood. In 2002, an MBA at an IIM was affordable to every bright middle-class student. Today, it is affordable only if your parents have savings or assets or have a large debt appetite. And let's be clear about one thing. This didn't start with a private B school. It started with the IIMs, public institutions built with taxpayer money, meant to expand opportunity, not price it out. This is not about inflation. This is not about quality. This is about normalizing exclusion. This is about making education so unaffordable that the brightest students cannot get into the best institutions of this country. Let me explain to you through data of how the IIMs have increased the fee and how it is so unjustified and so unfair for India, its demographic dividend for every student out there in the country. And before I move any further, please subscribe to MBA 360 if you've not already done that. This will be a single point destination for any MBA aspirant who wants to get into the best B school possible based on the score, merit, affordability, and so on and so forth. Please subscribe right now. Let's start with the fee itself, right? In 2003, the fee of IIM Ahmedabad was 1.58 lakh rupees. Today, it is 27.5 lakhs. IIM Calcutta was charging 1.4 lakh in 2003. Today, it's 27 lakhs. IIM Lucknow was charging 1.3 lakhs in 2003. It is now 20.55 lakh. IIM Kozhikode was 1.1 lakh. Today it's 23.5 lakh. Each of them have increased the fee by about 1500% to 2000% in 22 years. That's a normalized 90% plus kind of a growth rate that you've seen on a simple rate basis. 90% year on year. That's what we're talking of. 15 to 20 times is the increase in fee in each of these IIMs. Now, do they need that? Is the first question that I wanted to ask. But let us first correlate that with the kind of growth in salaries also that happened over the last 20 years since we're talking of 2003 to 2025. When you look at that data, the median salary of IIM Ahmedabad in 2003 was 6.2 lakh. Today it's 31 lakhs. So we're talking about 400% jump. IIM Calcutta was 6.2 lakh in 2003, which is now 30 lakhs, which is about 380% jump. Kozhikode jumped about 395% and IIM Lucknow jumped 385%. So you actually saw about 4x kind of a growth in median salary over the last 22 years, while the fee itself increased by about close to 2000%, between 1500% to 2000%. So essentially, the fee jumped 5 times more than the jump in the median salary. What was 400% in terms of median salary jump? The fee jumped by about 1500 to 2000%. That is what we're talking about. Now, the question that obviously should be asked is, did the IIMs require to increase the fees? There is a justification to a certain extent, but not currently as we see it now. Because when this entire conversation about increasing the fee happened, the IIMs negotiated with the government to ensure that they are more autonomous and more empowered while giving away the funding from the government. The government was earlier subsidizing it. The government was earlier funding it. And the IIMs wanted greater autonomy. So what did they do? They gave up the rights of the student to pay a lesser fee so that they can become more autonomous, more powerful. But in the process, the government had to step back because they no longer are subsidizing it. So to that extent, they don't have enough control over IIMs. Only if the government puts some subsidy, then there would be some kind of a control. And IIMs said, okay, we don't want your subsidy, but don't make us autonomous and we want to be as powerful as it can be. But who was the loser in this entire case? The student was not a part of the negotiating table. They gave up the rights of the student so that they can become powerful, more autonomous. While the government was very happy because they no longer need to subsidize or fund the IIMs. Now that is a tragedy that I would always look at. Now, if you look at the P&L statements of the IIMs, I've got the 23-24 balance sheets of IIM Ahmedabad, Kozhikode, Calcutta and Lucknow, because we want to understand, do they need that money that they're actually increasing the fees? When we looked at that, IIM Ahmedabad has a profit of 45.5 crore rupees in year 23-24. IIM Kozhikode has a profit of 103 crores. IIM Calcutta has a profit of 128 crores. And IIM Lucknow has a profit of 81.62 crores. So they're extremely profitable. Why do I say they're extremely profitable? Because if you compare it with the tuition fees, the IIM Kozhikode tuition fee is 79.6 crores, whereas the profit is 103 crores, which means that the profit is more than the tuition fees that they charge. What it also implies is that even if they don't charge a single penny of fees, IIM Kozhikode would still be profitable. And the same is the case with many other institutions also. If you look at IIM Calcutta, the profit is about 128.39 crores, right? Whereas the tuition fee from PGDM graduates is 104 crores, which means the profit of IIM Calcutta is more than the entire tuition fee that is collected by IIM Calcutta, right? And the same is the case with even IIM Lucknow, where the profit is 81 crores, whereas the tuition fee that you have is 71.64 crores. So what we are essentially dealing with is simple, that the profits that some of these institutions have are more than the tuition fee that is completely collected. How does this work? Because they've been sitting on a huge corpus from where they earn interest income, investment income and so on and so forth. And the other big thing that happened, which is dramatic over the last 10 years especially, because all these IIMs have started giving online education, and they start giving online PGDM programs and online MBA programs and also certification programs. And that income has been on a very, very steady hike. Now just look at the numbers here again. The total income of Ahmedabad was 420 crores, but the tuition fee is only 121 crores. So if you look at it as total fee to the total income, the total tuition fee is only 28% or 29% of the total income of IIM Ahmedabad. In the case of IIM Kozhikode, the total fee to the total income ratio is only 23.64, which means about 76% of the income of IIM Kozhikode comes from not tuition fees, but beyond that. IIM Calcutta, it's 35%, which means 65% money comes from beyond the tuition fee. And in IIM Lucknow, it's about 72% comes from beyond the tuition fees. The biggest income that these institutions now have, because they've started their online programs, is the executive education programs. In the case of IIM Ahmedabad, the executive education itself contributes 174 crores against the tuition fee of the normal PGDM programs, which is 121 crores, which are students. Right. In IIM Kozhikode case, executive education contributes 157 crores, whereas the tuition fee is just 79 crores, which means 2x of what tuition fee is the executive education revenue. IIM Calcutta 80 crores and IIM Lucknow 58 crores. So all these institutions suddenly have an increased income because they start their online education programs and they're giving a lot of revenue for them. But ideally, in the case of an IIM, it should go and subsidize the fees? No, the fee has been consistently increasing. Only in the last 2-3 years, when people like us start speaking about it, that they became a bit more cautious, a bit more careful, and started ensuring that there is a greater debate before they actually go for a fee hike. And that is a tragedy that we are talking about, because these people are not realizing that they're hurting the entire MBA ecosystem, because they're giving a moral authority to everyone else to increase the fees, because IIMs themselves, public institutions, funded on public taxpayer money up to a point in time, were very profitable when they branched out, are now charging 25-30 lakh rupees as fees. And it doesn't stop here. Some of these B schools also are sitting on huge corpus because they kept making profits and the corpus kept building up. And mind you, there are also alumni grants that happen, donations that happen. For example, IIM Ahmedabad alone has total long-term investments of 1,593 crores as of March 24. Today, it will be about 1,650, 1,700 crores, possibly. That is the kind of corpus that these B schools are sitting on. And that obviously earns a lot of interest for them. Just imagine about 1,700 crore rupees being invested. Even at 10%, we're talking of a very, very high income source. And all these B schools are sitting in very, very large corpuses. If you look at the overall summary of all the top 4 IIMs, right? And I'm only talking of Ahmedabad, Kozhikode, Calcutta and Lucknow. The simple thing is this: the total income is 1,321 crores. But the profit is 358 crores, the total tuition fee is 377 crores, and the executive education income is about 469 crores. What it means is, even if assuming all these IIMs charge zero fees, the loss would be just about 20 crore rupees. Or more as actually by 25, it would actually be made up also. It simply means that IIMs today don't need to charge the fee, but they charge the fee so that they can continue the entire facade that they're dealing with. What is my problem with this entire thing? At this point in time, my generation, by the way, never had to resort to an education loan to study. We knew that the fee was good enough, it was moderate enough that from our normal earnings, we can actually take that money out and, study. At this point in time, education is not possible even in IIMs unless you take an education loan because it is so outpriced. When you talk of 27, 28 lakh rupees as fees, by the time you finish your education, travel, all the other expenditure, it's between 35 and 40 lakh rupees. And we're not even talking about the 2-year, opportunity loss because you're giving up a job and joining an IIM, which would be another 15, 20 lakh rupees. So we're dealing with about 55, 60 lakh rupees as a total cost for pursuing an MBA. I understand the fact that, many of them are placing, but what they did was they gave a moral authority for every other ordinary B school also to increase the fees. Today, you do not have a single MBA less than 15, 20 lakhs. Maybe there are a bunch of things which are possibly funded by public institutions or state governments, but pick up one private institution which is charging less than 15 lakh rupees, that's very rare. And we do keep talking about those rare institutions because those institutions really need to be encouraged. But the fact is that the cost of MBA education has increased. It was led by none other than IIMs. And that is the tragedy of this all. And what does it mean for all of you? You are taking an education loan at about 9%, 10%, 11% interest rate. And what does IIM do? They collect the fees, but they end up depositing that to earn 5-6% of interest. Because their earnings, because they invest in government bonds, is about 5-6%, whereas you are taking a loan of about 10, 11, 12%. And that is the tragedy that we're dealing with, that, IIMs, which possibly make case studies with every other government and NGO and all of how to reduce cost to make it affordable, accessible, and I'm absolutely sure that they would have made some project reports on this, have today increased the fee beyond the realm of a common middle class student where they can fund it by their own income. They need to resort to a loan, and that is about 10, 11, 12%. And that is something that needs to be questioned. So the big question that I'm asking at this point in time is, do you think there should be a cap or a restriction on IIMs increasing the fee so haphazardly? Do you think IIMs should freeze their fees for the next 5 years so that they come back to some kind of a normalcy? Do you think that IIMs need to really, think through about whether they're contributing to the growth of this country or they're actually stopping it because they are only benefiting those people who can afford or have assets or deposits or want to take a debt? Only those people are being benefited. Because I still want to understand the socio-economic status of the IIMs. It's not about a free ship that is coming much later. It's about whether a poor student would today at this point in time have the gall, have the courage to apply for an IIM, knowing fully well that he or she needs to take a loan to fund that education. That is a big problem here, and this needs to be challenged. I hope someone in the government and many people in the IIMs and the boards of IIMs look at this data very, very carefully and think through, introspect, and see what they can do for the nation, then strengthen, bulk up their balance sheets, because that is not what you've been created for. Thank you so much. Namaste.